Good evening, everyone. I'm Brian Trumbore with your nightly review for Thursday, June 13th. It's 4:02 p.m. Eastern Time. Dow Jones finished up 81 points to 15,176, 1.2%. S&P 500 up 1.5% at 1636. NASDAQ up 1.3% to 34.45, gold 13.83, oil 96.70, and the 10-year Treasury ticked down from 218 to 215, right at about 359, which I just found curious. Why the rally? Which broke a 3-day losing streak, which was actually historic because the Dow Jones had never gone 112 trading days without a 3-day losing streak. So, retail sales came in better for the month of May, up 0.6%. That was a positive. Initial jobless claims fell to 334,000. That was a positive. But after Tokyo had fallen 6.4% last night and is now down 21% from its May 23rd peak, and other Asian markets had declined 2 to 3%, and Europe was opening up lower, certainly nobody saw a 180-point advance in the Dow, and the economic news wasn't that good. And of course, if the news was great, then you have the Federal Reserve's bond buying program back in play, and whether or not they will enter tapering mode. So I guess for today, the market thought, well, the Fed isn't going to taper it. I don't think they're going to taper. They meet next week, next Tuesday and Wednesday, and next Wednesday afternoon, Ben Bernanke's press conference will be very, very important, and the markets will try to glean whether or not the Fed is going to begin tapering at $85 billion a month, perhaps in September, maybe October. We shall see. The World Bank had added previously to the gloom by lowering its growth forecast for the global economy from 2.4 to 2.2% in 2013 and to 3% in 2014. It also cut the China forecast from 8.4 to 7.7, which is essentially where all the private economic forecasters are today when it comes to China. Chinese government itself is calling for 7.5% this year. London and Paris ended up unchanged as Wall Street rallied, and Frankfurt was down 0.6%, and in Greece the two biggest labor unions went on a 24-hour strike over the decision by the government to shut down the state television broadcaster ERT, which some called a coup of sorts, because it was seen as blocking a source of unbiased information. The ERT staff is going to be cut from 2,600 to 1,200. So what the government did was shut it down, and then they're going to bring it back in a reduced form. Also yesterday, the Bank of England defended its ultra-loose monetary policy after one of its most senior officials warned that global policymakers had inflated the biggest bond market bubble in history. Andrew Haldane, head of financial stability at the bank, told MPs that there was a danger of a rapid reversal in valuation of global bonds that had been pushed up by central banks, and that he was carefully monitoring which parts of the financial system were most exposed. Haldane said, "Let's be clear, we have intentionally blown the biggest government bond bubble in history. That's where we are. We have to be vigilant to the consequences of that bubble deflating more quickly than we might otherwise have wanted. In Syria, the United Nations is reporting that at least 93,000 people have now been killed in the civil war. At least 5,000 people have been dying in Syria each month since last July. However, the UN admits that their statistics are underestimating the true carnage because it believes many deaths have not been reported. The UN's Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights has also documented the deaths of more than 1,700 children under the age of 10. The brutality is unbelievable. Massive torture and executions, including of children. Nice job, President Obama. That's on him. A lot of that is. If you don't believe it, then you just haven't been following what's been happening for over 2 years now in Syria. Over 2 years of total inaction. And of course now the war is spilling over into Lebanon, into Iraq. In Lebanon, Syria has been very aggressive in going after rebels in Lebanon itself. Yesterday there was a helicopter gunship attack on a Lebanese village. Lebanese President Michel Sleiman and the Lebanese army vowed to respond to repeated violations of Lebanon's sovereignty by the Syrian military. Some of the strikes have been fairly deep into the Bekaa Valley, which I'm very familiar with, and a town of Baalbek has been shelled, which for you history buffs, there are all kinds of terrific Roman ruins there. In Turkey, Prime Minister Erdogan issued a final warning to protesters to leave Gezi Park in Istanbul. He said, "Our patience is at an end. I am making my warning for the last time." Clashes between police and protesters in the park adjoining Taksim Square have continued. Though today it appeared it was fairly calm, activists have said they will not leave Gezi Park until the government abandons plans to redevelop it. Erdogan has promised a local vote on its future. Such a plebiscite would not be binding, but Erdogan said he would honor its outcome. "I say to the mothers and fathers, please take your children in hand and bring them out." That's what Erdogan declared. "We cannot wait anymore because Gezi Park does not belong to occupying forces but to the people." However, as I am posting this, he is supposedly getting together with some protesters as a last-ditch effort to defuse the situation. And that was to take place tonight, Istanbul time. In Iran, tomorrow is Iran's presidential election. Moderates and reformists are said to be coalescing behind Hassan Rouhani, one of the 6 remaining candidates. 2 dropped out. Rouhani is a cleric and former nuclear negotiator, seen as the best hope of staving off a field of divided conservatives. Rouhani has received the endorsement of former presidents Mohammad Khatami and Ali Akbar Rafsanjani. Rafsanjani, of course, had been denied his place on the ballot by the Guardian Council. But I don't see the moderates and reformists turning out. Plus, there's no reason to believe the vote won't be rigged just as it was in 2009. Rouhani, since he announced his candidacy in early April, has spoken more than any other candidate about what he would do for women and ethnic minorities if elected, forming a ministry of women. This has led some press accounts I've read to believe, again, that the moderates and reformists will turn out, particularly women. I just don't see it. So I see the election instead being between two conservatives, Saeed Jalili, the current chief nuclear negotiator, and Khamenei protege, and another fellow, Khalibaf, the current mayor of Tehran. Both are very conservative and pro-clergy. You need a clear majority of the vote to avoid a runoff, so my prediction is that both of these will be in a runoff. So it'll be a runoff of two highly conservative candidates. Of course, many say it really doesn't matter who is president of Iran because the supreme power rests with Ayatollah Khamenei. Meanwhile, seeing as Khamenei is the ultimate power, Professor Stephen David, an international relations expert at Johns Hopkins University, speaking at a conference in Israel yesterday, said that in outlining the implications of a nuclear-armed Tehran, quote, "There is no doubt that an Iran with nuclear weapons could destroy Israel. Just taking out Tel Aviv and Haifa would be enough to destroy the Jewish state." David also explained that because Iran worries about a decapitation strike on its leadership, it could give the nuclear firing codes to a wide range of people to deter an attack on the leadership, which would then increase the likelihood that a fanatic would get his hands on the trigger. And in North and South Korea, North Korea blamed South Korea for arrogant obstructions that it said led high-level talks to be canceled. South Korea's deliberate disturbance by changing the head of its delegation made the talks between authorities abortive, North Korea said. Meanwhile, North Korea has not been answering the phone from South Korea via the Red Cross communications line linking the two countries. North Korea cut that line back in March, but restored it Friday, and now these assholes won't pick up the phone again. Oh, those daffy North Koreans. No videos next week. I'm on the road, much of it, at least according to current plan. So I'll be back with you whenever. Go to stocksnews.com, read my Week in Review column, which I post around midnight Friday nights these days. Have a good weekend. Take care.